The final countdown. Doo-doo-doo. Yay! We've reached it.
We've actually finished the season. It's unbelievable.
It's the first time ever. And just remember, Ben, no more Caterham.
No more Caterham. Like, I mean, I'm not palming it off on the virtual team that we drive for, right? Because we are rubbish, and there's no getting around that. But the car is just horrific. It's just horrific.
It's like it's floating in bubbles.
And I do recall that it was actually my decision to. I remember we had that conversation. That was many months ago, and we were like, who should we drive for? And we were going to originally go for Force India because we'd done Sauber the season before and thought it was time for a change. And then I said, no, I'll tell you what, let's do Caterham, Simon. Let's do Caterham. And then I've regretted it for 19 rounds ever since.
Sob. But yes, no more will we be in the Caterham Kings or in the big green mean machines.
No, we actually have to think about what we're going to be.
I know.
Unemployed, probably.
Yeah, sidelines. We'll be test reserve simulator drivers.
For Russia.
Yeah. Know your place.
Well, let's
dive in.
Let's hit Interlagos. This is a track that, on the Mega Drive, was always very cruel to me.
On the Mega Drive?
Yeah.
Was that in the F1 game by Domark?
Yeah. Oh, do you remember that F1 game where it was one of the first ones where you could change teams?
Ayrton Senna's Super Monaco Grand Prix would let you do that.
Yeah.
And they're all fake named, and you started off at Segaya, which was actually the Sega F1 team, I think.
Yeah, and there was Madonna.
Yeah, which was McLaren, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Lorenzo was there. I need to go back to that because that was one of the very first videos I ever put up on my channel. Was of Ayrton Senna Super Monaco Grand Prix 2, around Phoenix. But I love those games because every track just looked like a section of motorway.
Yeah, it did. It did. That is incredibly true. Let's take a look at the weather before I walk on any further. Dry, excellent.
Yay!
I surprised myself on multiplayer on this track because I was far more competitive than I ever imagined I would have been. So I'm hoping that translates into a decent performance today.
Amazeballs.
Lots to cover again, and it is our final episode. It will be a little bit less real F1, I suppose, because before we dive into finishing that off, I did want to discuss a little bit about the game itself, right?
Okay.
Because your channel is predominantly a gaming channel, not an F1 channel, and striking the balance is always a bit difficult. But
yeah.
We started the season saying that people who were criticising the game as unplayable were wide of the mark. Mm-hmm. And then, partway through the season, we started to have issues. And actually, we started the season with issues as well, right? Ghosting issues and stuff.
Yes, we did. But it became more predominant during certain races than others, with no particular rhyme or reason as to why either.
Now, having completed a full season now, what is your verdict? Because I know plenty of people on my Steam friends list who have 2012, saw that it wasn't a huge leap over 2011 necessarily, or didn't feel like it was, even though I would disagree with them. And they've held off and not bought this game. Kill it, Ben.
Oh no, not already.
Yeah, it's alright. I'm backing off. I've knackered that lap.
I would say F1 2013 is really not an essential purchase if you have 2012. However, I prefer 2013 over 2012 hands down on nigh on every single aspect of the game. But because I really liked 2012 and really struggled with 2011, I was just glad they went in the direction that they went, as opposed to where they were going with 2011, because I really struggled with that iteration of the game.
Yeah, 2011, the cars didn't feel like they had any weight at all. So for me, the jump between 2012 and 2011 was arguably bigger than 2013 and 2012. But
Yes.
the reason I contradict you on this is that I believe that 2013 is enough of an improvement to warrant splashing the dosh.
Especially now it's cheaper, actually.
Exactly. I mean, I pre-order these games religiously anyway, whether they're good or not, just because I'm an F1 fan. I like the Codemasters games. You know, some people have always said, well, Ben, you know, they're not proper sims, and I'm fine with that.
I'm down with that as well. I don't buy this to be a sim. I buy this for fun and multiplayer and crazy co-op seasons of Caterham Kings.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's not that it's entirely arcade. It has some simulator-esque qualities.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's a happy medium. You know, driving a true sim all the time for most people is too much work.
Yeah.
In fact, driving this quite often is too much work for me.
That made me go off track.
That's good. I'll save up all those doozies, and then when we're next racing each other, I'll wheel one out and watch you barrel off into the undergrowth.
Down into turn one where you're just like, oh, I love driving in reverse me.
Yeah. So, the question is though, you know, maybe you don't feel that this game is legit or that it's for you, but answer me this: what else are you going to play? Because outside of the hardcore simulators, you don't really have much that fits into this niche. Because Gran Turismo, possibly, or Forza, maybe, sort of falls into that gap between arcade and sim, but
I'd argue they're more
arguably-
arcade, actually. Arcade? What's up, Doc? But yeah, I'd argue that they are more arcade than what this is.
Exactly
Especially
my
now
point.
that I've got GT6, and that was only because it was half price. Because I really didn't get on massively with GT5, and I thought, oh, I'll give it one more go. And I do prefer 6 over 5, definitely. But it's where's the damage? Where's my skewed suspension when I smack it in a wall? It feels like it's a driving simulator, not a racing simulator, which I guess is what it does actually say on the tin. But yeah, I'd argue that they are more arcade, even though people will be like, oh, the physics, blah, 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 blah. No, this is more sim, thanks.
Yeah, no, exactly. And there seems to be very little that really fills that gap between full arcade, full sim. You know, something that a purist can sort of recognise as having a quality, but the casual gamer can pick up and play. Mm-hmm. And the future seems to show the bias towards sim anyway, because if you look at stuff like Next Car Game and stuff, did you just ghost through me?
Yeah!
That's very unfriendly of you.
Oh, I just wanted to give you a big internal hug.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, you don't seem to have scratched the paint.
Beautiful. Casper.
But that said, I am interested in alternatives, right? Because I'm building a new rig shortly, because I would like to do the next iteration of this F1 game with you on the channel, right? And the machine I'm on now, I don't think it's going to be up to the task. I think there's going to be a big jump thanks to the next gen consoles coming out.
Yeah.
And I think performance will suffer. And we already had a discussion that I'm finally taking the plunge and purchasing a wheel.
Bum, bum, bum.
And so I thought, well, the next logical step is to get involved in sim racing. The problem is, though, is that there's a bit of a schism, I suppose, right now among sim racing people, because I'm starting to hear a lot of people talking about Assetto Corsa being the new standard. Now, when I saw that game come out, I'll be honest, I took it to be a Gran Turismo ripoff,
Yep.
but it's actually supposed to be aimed at the sim racing community online. It's got modding support. It does have open wheel cars, which I didn't think it would have. Are you familiar with it at all?
I've not played it. However, I am constantly asking various other sim racers their opinions of it, and I hear nothing but good comments.
Because
And surprise, actually, as well.
Because what I've heard is that the engine and the physics are fantastic, but the content that ships with the game is pretty poor. But when there's mod support, right, it's important to focus on how it... Oh my god.
Bottas! It sounds like you was about to say.
I just had a massive spin when I opened the DRS.
Oops. What was that, turn 3?
Yep. I've not had it spin on me like that with DRS open ever.
I've done it in Parabolica once, I think. I know, don't mind me.
So that means I'm coming in again because I want to actually set a competitive lap time. I might not actually get a time on the board here.
You've got one on the board. Oh, it's just
I do.
it was 13th.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, I take that back. Anyway, yeah. So what I've heard is that it's actually quite good. It's just there's a lack of content, which I guess they'll continue to add to. The reason it interests me is in light of the slow adoption rate for R Factor 2.
Yes. And the continuing slow adoption rate, it's not speeding up either, and it's such a I've not adopted. I love my R Factor 1, and until I see that it's no longer being adopted by other leagues, I will stay on R Factor 1 because of especially with RFE, with the rain plugins and stuff like that. Suddenly now, that was like one of my biggest things for R Factor 2. I was like, yes, weather, and things like that. It can be done on RF1, and it works perfect. So I don't see suddenly its gems of it can do this are no longer the gems anymore, and now it just becomes buggy and awkward.
I remember being excited for R Factor 2 in about 2008 when I was running a team, and I was like, oh, I can design uniforms for my pit crew. No, because I mean, anywhere that you can brand, right, is interesting, because I always wanted to try and get actual sponsors.
Yeah.
Which is quite hard to do, but some people do manage it.
Yeah.
And it just anything that adds to authenticity is a good thing. Now the thing about R Factor 2 is obviously no one seems all that interested in it while R Factor 1 works so well. And I've also heard that it's not actually all it was cracked up to be. In terms of performance, that it's not quite as, obviously it wouldn't be as stable as R Factor 1 is, given that it's not had the development cycle time put into it. It's not been constantly being tweaked for as long as R Factor 1 has. But is that ultimately its undoing, right? Is this why developers will not generally support the sim racing community, because they're not going to part with cash? They're not going to buy the latest version.
I think whilst R Factor and iRacing, give it its due, have already cemented such a large... I think you've got to be prepared for it to be a real slow uptake, and for you to then have to rely on word of mouth and people eventually coming across and having to be proved wrong in a way, because a lot of people go, oh wow, that looks really good, and then you've got people saying, but we've already modded that plugin for that game, or we've already done this for that game already, so then what am I actually buying in for that's going to really be a proper improvement? And I think with R Factor 1, definitely, considering the age of the game, graphics aren't going to be the thing that you sell your game for.
No, but ironically though, well, not ironically necessarily, but for me, as someone who has spectated sim racing for a while,
yes,
graphics are a big deal.
Okay.
They are a big deal.
They they are, but I think being able to sell the fact that you have a completely moddable game, and to be able to sell the ease of how easy it is to mod, I think is going to be the key to what is successful next.
Because my next question then would be, Assetto Corsa, it's going to be hurt, right, by the fact that R Factor is so deeply entrenched.
Yep.
I've improved, but still only 11th. While my colleague sits pretty in 3rd.
Ah, damn. Corner cut. And a spin. I was on course for pole then.
I've just set a purple sector 1. Which is cool. I occasionally have one purple sector. Just for fun.
Just the one.
Yeah. And then Chilton gets in my way, a bit like now. And I sometimes feel that overtaking him on the outside like I just did cost me about 3 seconds, and that's why I'm always almost last.
1 minute to go.
Aww.
Well, back on topic then. Your advice to anyone getting into sim racing, such as myself, then would be what? Pick up R Factor 1?
R Factor 1 because it's so cheap and cheerful, and it comes with such a huge thing at R Factor Central, and so many different leagues still cover it. Leagues are switching to R Factor 2, so if you want to dive straight in, if you're new to sim racing, the problem with R Factor 2 is that you can do it on their like little subscription basis, but if you want to go all in, it's a large pot of cash to part with before you really know if you like something.
Yeah. You see, that's... Yeah, I was going to say we're 3rd and 4th.
Go you! Yeah, that would be my thing, to be fair, is go for R Factor 1 first, or get a free trial on iRacing or something like that, depending on how you do. I don't like the way how iRacing does its pricing structure, but it has a good fan base, and so you can't really argue with a fan base that is dedicated to something like that if you enjoy that.
See, because what I'm thinking is, like, as I said, to justify the expense of a wheel, which is the only way I'm going to improve, I need to use it more. So I'm going to get into sim racing. This is advice for me as much as it is for anybody else. And it just strikes me that league racing is probably the way to go to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least maybe something like iRacing. Would you, even though I've driven F1 games previously, I've never driven anything with that sort of level of simulation, would you agree with the idea of starting with something like Renault Clios and tin tops? Or do you believe you can start open wheel straight away?
I believe you can start open wheel straight away. I did, but that says a lot for my level of driving, really. I would say it depends on where you're going from in terms of your own driving. If you're looking for precision in open racing, then I would just say cut straight to the chase and go straight for open wheel racing. However, if you enjoy argy-bargy battling and you quite like your dirt series and things like that, going for the tin tops is probably going to be much more of a forgiving task, because you're not it's built into the way how those mods are designed. But what I would say is, if you want to get into open wheeling to start with, start off with the lower rungs maybe in those open wheeling categories. So like no one does it anymore, but R Factor comes with the RF trainer cars, and they're so cute and fun to play with, but it gets you really down into how you can deal with throttle and brake, and not being like I am and just fat finger the accelerator, because you'll just go round like a top. And it trains you very quickly to understand how a car dynamic works, I think.
Well, that's actually been incredibly helpful, and we may have actually given some useful consumer advice, who knows?
Stop it, boobs, anus, tits. There we go.
Yeah.
Balance is out.
Yeah, I'm glad that you've put us back on course there.
Hey!
How close was that qualifying session for us?
Well done, you.
0.04 of a second separates us.
Woohoo!
So it seems that my wish has come true.
It all came right at the end.
What I am concerned about, though, is that I've knackered my tyres and I can't change them.
Oh shit! Yes, that's a good point. And I done a 7-lap stint on mine.
Oh dear. That's unfortunate. That is unfortunate.
Never mind. Maybe in early then.
Well, shall we continue our relentless march towards the season finish?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's hope for a double points end.
Fingers crossed. Well, I'm getting told off.
Your head. Yeah, why? Why?
This is my best qualifying all year.
Tony Fernandez clearly just wants winning or fail.
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe it knows that it is Tony Fernandez, and they're like, right, he's just not happy with anything unless you're first and second.
Well, I'm a little bit hurt. Maybe another team appreciates us more.
I think we need to go.
Oh, I wanted a quick word about Grand Prix World.
Yes. When's
yeah.
it coming for you, mate?
Okay, I'm just figuring out how to transfer the file to Simon and keep it in a reasonably good quality, but I do hope to be able to get that over to you quite soon. It's such a great game, and it's really important to be able to show people how wonderful it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you do see it and think, I'd like to try it, it's really hard to get a copy now.
Yeah.
Because it's so old. But there are ways, mateys.
Wink, wink.
Are. And I would recommend that anyone who gets a chance to try it. And if you can pay for it, then that's super. But if not, then I don't think the developer's too bothered, since he stopped making games a long time ago now. It says that I can last till lap 13 on my options, but I have a feeling that's a tad optimistic.
I'm thinking the same, because it's telling me the same. So I'm going to probably go for a lap 8 or 9. Chop it in half.
Yeah, I'm going to go... Good question. 8 or 9. I might go 9.
Okay, I'll go 8.
And we can always both come in on 8 if we need to.
Yep.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, we'll do a update as we go.
Okay, so shall we?
For one final time for 2013. Oh, teary-eyed.
Off we go.
Toodles. Let's not take each other out down at turn 1.
Yeah, we've been avoiding it all season. This is where we have
so
the
well.
final crash, right?
Yep. Rage quits.
So very quickly want to touch on picking up from last episode. We just had the big 3 teams to talk about, really. We touched on Lotus a bit already. Ferrari, McLaren and Mercedes. What are your feelings?
Mercedes will be the strongest. Ferrari, I think, will be purposely detuned so that they can get their car home. And I'll save the rest behind turn 1, because I've got a funny feeling this could be an interesting one.
I would agree. Although you've got the legs on Alonso. As have I. Out of my way, Vettel. Oh, I've got him down here.
Out of my way, Lewis. Yes, I'm in the lead.
Oh, they just come together quite badly. And that's thrown me back behind Button.
Oh no, dude. We need to score one more point than McLaren to beat them in the battle for 5th in the Constructors' Championship.
It's funny, I would rank this season as a failure, but the stats would go against that assumption.
It has been a delightful...
So, yeah, I would agree that Ferrari probably haven't shown their true hand at this stage in proceedings. But I think I'm perhaps most interested to see how things work out with Kimi. With Kimi and Fernando.
That I think that is going to be one of the most interesting pairings and stories all season. Because that has the potential to explode all over the track, everywhere. I'll be
It
really
does.
annoyed if they are just friends. It's not what I'm looking for.
No, you're looking for those the good old days, right, where they would punch each other in the face and things like that.
Good old PK and Salazar.
I have just no speed at all. Vettel is pulling out a crazy amount of distance. And considering my tyres are technically fresher than yours, that's concerning.
Oh shit, I don't even know where I've gone. There we go. Oh shit, I've got a penalty.
Yeah, I saw a lot of dust and I thought that can only mean one thing.
Given a time penalty, it'll be added
Simon
by the
attack.
end of the session.
Right. So if you've got speed, have you not got speed?
I don't.
Hamilton's lead
Okay.
the race.
I might chase after you then. So
It's alright. Plus, I think it's probably more entertaining for people watching when we actually race each other rather than talk bollocks. But can you see how just crazily far they're pulling ahead of me there?
yeah, they've set their car up for straight line speedage.
DRS is being enabled this lap. Remember, we can use DRS when you're within 1 second.
You know that crazy idea I had about lasting to lap 8?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it was crazy nonsense.
My tyres are orange already.
Continuing with our grand finale extravaganza,
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to John's email, which I've been saying we'll do for about 5 rounds now, but one of the things he brought up that tied into a conversation we'd had previously was that he actually supports the idea of Haas getting the F1 grid slot
Okay.
on the basis that, like, he says, I know they'll be rubbish, but it will continue to increase the interest from American fans that we've been seeing recently.
And he is an American.
And he is an American, or he's in America, I guess, because I don't know, sometimes I read his email and I read it in a British voice, so maybe I'm just projecting. Or he's an honorary Brit.
He is in our eyes.
And I can't fault him on his logic there. I can't, because he makes an excellent point, right? You're going to be far more invested in F1 if you have a team from your own nation. Ooh, that went badly. I was so scared of hitting you that I took a stupid line into the corner. So I was like, taking each other off
on
into
the side
second
or
corner. It doesn't matter which lap you do it on.
it's still
Just don't do
bad
it.
regardless.
Is that your nose I can see, or is
Yeah.
that my end plate? You won that game of chicken. I braked.
I wish I'd have won the game of found the apex at the next corner though. That's the only problem.
I just can't seem to plant the car. Almost lost it there. These tyres have got to come off.
I don't want you. Diet tyre break.
Diet Coke advert time. And there you go, off into the sunset because I had the audacity to temporarily brush against a blade of grass.
Keep them behind though, especially if that's a McLaren.
It's a Ferrari.
Okay, that's allowed.
I take corner 1 much faster than you, it appears.
I brake before the 50 board because I'm worried about my tyres.
Ah, that'll probably be why my tyres are falling to pieces then.
Who do you think's going to win at the season opener?
Oh, that's a very good question. Rosberg. Rosberg, or failing that, I'm putting my future predicting head on now, and if I close my eyes and try and imagine what I could realistically see on the news, Magnussen.
What?
Yeah.
Now, only one person has ever won on their debut race, haven't they? And that was back in the 60s.
Exactly. But there's something about it that just says to me, he's got the legs to do it.
We believe the car ahead has a lot of fuel in reserve.
Yeah, people are already starting to make their stops, so stopping on lap 8 was a brave call to begin with. Did you go off?
A little bit.
Because, yeah, there was a cloud of dust hanging in the air when I got to that corner.
I was a little bit under braking. Dodgeroo.
What fuel mixture are you running?
2.
It's just crazy how you managed to pull away from me. I'm hoping that wheels and a pedal help me get my traction problem under control. Because it's not that I don't feather the throttle, it's just that I seem to just lose all my power coming out of corners.
Right, well, if you don't mind, I'm going to dive in early this lap.
Be my guest. Because I'm coming in the lap after you.
Oh,
My
shit.
My front tyres, red.
Oh, God.
Or a very deep orange.
A deep shade of blue.
They're sort of like a Dale Winton sunburn.
An Oompa Loompa style.
But Alonso is staying out.
They all have, actually. No one's in. Which is great, because I'm now going to come out.
Oh, Rosberg's got past me because I ran wide into the corner. And he's got DRS, the pillock. Oh, I can't keep these cars behind me, Simon. I have to come in. I'm going
Okay.
backwards very, very badly.
After your tyres.
Don't panic, mate. You can do it.
The front tyres are locked.
What I'm worried about, though, is that because I'm
To the rear.
pitting early,
Be aware, we think the car behind
is there a...
trying to save you.
That's Button and Alonso past me. Yeah, this is knackered.
It's okay, I think you've held them up quite nicely.
The car just won't turn in, you know.
I've got this horrible frame rate issue. Oh no, it's back. No, it's gone. That's from out of nowhere. Okay, you're gonna so gain out of this.
I wouldn't be so sure because as soon as I turn into the pit lane, I'm down to 10th.
Esteban's in the pits. Esteban has pitted.
Something is going wrong with... hang on. Okay, right, we're back. Well, that was fucked up.
You've taken 15th.
There you go, you've rejoined ahead of me. Because of all of that weird frame rate issue.
Yeah, but we both know that won't last. Oh, hold on, I'm getting the frame rate issue now. Car's going backwards.
Yep, because I am. There we go.
Why is this happening?
I don't know.
We even took a break.
It's Fraps. It's Fraps. Fraps is screwing it up again. I'm gonna have to...
The problem with that is that people can't actually watch the race if we don't record it.
No, I know.
Sort it out, Fraps.
But there is no particular... Yeah, I can't even drive. This is crazy. Oh, our fifth in the constructors is going to go down the drain. Oh, and I've just smacked Sutil massively.
I don't think it will register it, to be honest.
No, I got a penalty.
Unbelievable. And after such a great start to the race, excellent qualifying.
I was on for a podium with that. Third was going to be mine. There we go, now we're back up to... I know I've been awarded a time penalty. I got my wings, yes. Well, If anything, this is now going to help you, maybe. Although
In a bizarre twist to the space-time paradox, both myself and Kimi Raikkonen are sharing 11th place, and 10th has been retired forever. In perpetuity, there is no 10th place, ergo, there is no 1 point.
And I've just been lapped.
Well, the other cars are not going backwards anymore, so I'm confused as to why you are.
Craziness. Absolute craziness. I just don't get it.
Oh wait, Chilton's warping backwards, but Button isn't. So it's only certain cars. And you've just had a massive accident.
I just can't even tell what is going on into the pits. I just find it really weird that it can go for quite a while and then just for no particular reason at all just fall apart. And like I'm going down the pit lane, there's like 100 people in the pit lane and it seems to be dealing with that better.
I've just overtaken Perez and then encountered him further down the road. This is like metaphysical racing.
Hallelujah. I'm just sorry to people watching.
Yeah, I know, it does ruin it when this happens. But why though? Because I mean, you've got the RAM back up to spec in your computer, right?
I've got perfect RAM, I've got hundreds of gigs of... Because I was uninstalling games in between this so that it would work perfectly fine. I wonder if there's some weird thing with Fraps that after it's done a few gigabyte of memory that it just goes, nah, I can't be bothered now. But there is no rhyme or reason to it, because this was working fine on a rubbisher computer earlier on in the year.
Maybe you and I should consider the possibility that it's my computer causing it, or that we should find an alternative to Fraps.
Yeah, well, we was discussing this actually in between, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
Because now it seems to have picked itself back up again, and that's... Oh, that's you. Sorry.
It's quite alright. I didn't think you were going to lock me out, so...
But now it seems to have just stabilised itself for a little bit, but I wonder for how long for. I wish I'd have had some more issues with people that need to be ahead of you, so that are ahead of you, and then I can take them out.
Yeah, it's strange. It seems to be people lower down the grid that walk backwards.
We think the car ahead is keeping fuel back for the end of the race.
Crazy. Absolute craziness. Anyway, before that happened, we were talking about John's email, right? And
yeah, sorry.
The sponsorship and fan interest that could be generated by an American team entering the sport. Mm-hmm. We've not really heard anything else about F1, the tender process since it opened, right? Since those teams announced interest, the FIA's been tight-lipped, so have the people making the entries. Mm-hmm. Do we still believe that this is an open and closed case? Because I don't see any reason to assume it's changed, right?
No. When's the deadline when they have to start making decisions for stuff? That's something I don't know.
It's got to be quite soon, because you can't just get a team onto the grid in a few months, right?
No, and then
which is already what it would be.
Yeah, which is not ideal in the best situation. And yeah, it's going to be a weird one, I think. I reckon it will be Haas. I think it's open closed. We all think it's just conspiracy, really, don't we?
F1 has a conspiracy feel to it, and it has for a long time. Like when I told you about how they managed to save Minardi, but they didn't save Prost.
Mm-hmm. And Arrows.
And Arrows. But I mean, Arrows was a lost cause. And that pains me, right? Because they were my absolute favourite team. I was a huge Orange Arrows fan during my time at high school. Huge. Because they were a midfield team that was a bit rubbish, but also almost there somehow.
Yeah.
And it's a cool name.
Yeah.
Arrows. It's pretty dope.
Definitely.
Speaking of old teams and old F1, we both like to watch old F1 races.
Yep.
I watched a brilliant Grand Prix from, I believe, 92 or 93, and it had good old Jim Rosenthal. And he was doing a feature on La Rousse.
Oh wow! I love that team.
And they'd just built. They spent millions on a new facility, and he was showing it off and saying that they really hope that this is a step forward, and we're confident that's going to be the case. And then, obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, that they went bankrupt that same year.
Aww. So many teams in the F1 graveyard. I know things have to change all the time, but it doesn't stop you getting a bit misty-eyed over some of the old lot.
Don't you feel, though, that very few teams these days have the soul that old teams had?
Yeah, I think as the world grows up and becomes so hell-bent on commercialism. I mean, commercialism was always there, but now I think because there are so many ways and every opportunity is now a commercial opportunity to print something somewhere, it's so difficult to not take advantage of that constantly.
No, because I mean, like, if you think about a team like Tyrrell, they were run out of a lumber yard.
Yep.
Literally a lumber yard. They didn't have a technical centre. They had a lumber yard that was a lumber yard. And, Prost, for all its faults, had a soul, right? It was owned by a racing driver who bought it as a passion project.
French through and through.
Yeah, and it was
Persia.
from the ashes of Ligier, which again is one of my favourite teams. Jordan. I don't think any teams have more soul than Jordan had.
No.
That was a team that would take a punt on a young, promising driver.
Oh, here we go.
Go on, what?
That's alright. I went off down an escape road that I'd never even knew existed.
You made an escape road.
There's... I so agree on the whole soul thing, which is why it's great that Lotus have their Twitter guy who clearly doesn't give a damn.
Exactly, I mean, like, Benetton was a commercial team, but I would still say they had soul.
Yep.
And I can't put my finger on why, maybe it's just the Italian thing, right? But
Maybe. I wonder, just without trying to be too misty-eyed, when people were like, oh, Red Bull's a drinks manufacturing company, were people saying, oh, Benetton's just a clothes shop at the time? Because I don't remember them being tarred like that.
no, I don't think they were. But I think the difference was, right, Benetton was bought because they cared about racing, and clothing was how they got the money to buy the team, right?
Okay.
Whereas Red Bull, it's a marketing exercise, and it's a marketing exercise because they sponsor literally everything.
That's true. If Red Bull did not exist, I wonder how much extreme sport would actually take place in the world.
No, I mean, you make a good point, right? You make a very good point. I mean, it'd still be there, but it probably wouldn't have the global exposure it does. But the point is, like, whether you believe Red Bull is good for F1 or not, I think the argument is, I'm not decrying their work or anything, I don't believe the team has a soul. Adrian Newey might be passionate about racing, Christian Horner might be passionate about racing, but the soul of the team, well, there isn't one. It's an advert. It is saying, look at all the money we have, look at all the culture, for want of a better word, that we sponsor and provide to you.
Yeah.
I mean, they own a bunch of football teams, hockey teams, sporting facilities. If they just had a F1 team, I think they would have benefited from the Benetton effect, being a corporate team that isn't really corporate because it's a project of passion. But I genuinely, bottom of my heart, don't believe Dietrich Mateschitz cares a jot about Formula One.
No, is he? I'm assuming he's a Red. I've never really known. Is he a Red Bull person or is he?
He owns Red Bull,
Okay.
the drink company, and he's the one who hired Dr. Marco, and he's sort of him and Marco are sort of the driving force behind Vettel's career.
Yeah.
And don't be wrong, like, I mean, it's not that I'm not grateful for Red Bull pouring money into sports I love, but
No.
I had a lot more goodwill towards them when they were sponsoring Arrows or Sauber. Right? You still get the benefit. You still get the benefit. When I think of Sauber, I think Red Bull, Sauber, Petronas.
Yeah.
Right? So they're getting the branding. They have the logo on the car. It was still the biggest logo on the car. Why did they have to buy the team and make it successful? Why couldn't they stay a passionate and deserving sort of outward sponsor, like an outward influencer?
To
on
play
the sport?
devil's advocate then, if Red Bull didn't buy an F1 team, what would the grid look like now? Do you think it would be 2 teams less, or do you think that other teams would have just sought other ways of surviving?
I think it might be at least 1 team smaller, but I genuinely believe someone would have bought Minardi. Someone would have done it. And the fact that it's Red Bull was just sort of that was Bernie's hand at play, right? But I don't believe that team would have been allowed to fail. Bernie took the measures he did to ensure its survival, and it was just that Dietrich was the first person to sign the deal. It's hard to say whether I believe it would be better off or not, but I don't believe it would suffer immeasurably. But there's no doubt that, it does help the F1 situation at large that they invest in it and run teams.
And what would happen if some marketing guru says, actually, Red Bull, do you know what? Running that F1 team is being counter to your brand name. Let's pull out now. What happens then?
I don't think that's all that unlikely. I don't see Red Bull Racing as a long-term project.
No.
And I'd say that they'll be there until they stop winning. And so if they have a bad season this year and maybe another 2 follow it, he'll be very tempted to sell up. He's already tried to sell Toro Rosso. Good news, we've got more points than McLaren. Bad news, not enough.
No, we've got enough.
Did we? I thought we needed 5.
We needed 1. And you've got 2.
Yes!
Despite
I'm
every
glad I
effort
can contribute in some small way.
that you saved us. You gave us 5th in the constructors. Oh yes. I tell you what, that's how fucked up that game was on the last lap. No cars in my visible view at all. My frame rates were back to normal, and it gave me DRS. No idea why.
But you're not last.
No,
Even
because
with a 20-second grid penalty, and when I drove past you, you were registered as 22nd.
Yep, I have no idea. And do you know what? My
Cars
frame.
are warping on the score screen, by the way.
Yeah, because it's warping for me on here. It's something needs to be sorted either with fraps and its way how it's recording stuff. Because as soon as I turn it off, it would go straight back up to its 90 frames per second. And then when I turn it back on again, it would drop back to 60 and hold that steady, and then very quickly it would just drive it down. So I don't know if it's a game issue or a frap issue or a combo of the 2. Who knows? It's a shame.
Well, we made it.
We did. If we press next, does that give us the final results of the season?
It doesn't give me an option for next.
I've got to continue.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, I do.
Well done to you. That 5th position, I think that's your best, isn't it?
And well, it's my best legit finish, but it's not a legit finish because you had the frame rate issue.
You was on for a legit 5th. If not, it would have been a 6th with me.
Congratulations, co-op championship complete.
Ah,
Apparently, I outraced you on 7 occasions. That doesn't feel like it.
I think I've had that frame rate issue. Is that 3 or 4 times now? And then the other ones, yes, you.
Penalties.
Me.
Penalties, wasn't it? Well, I've managed to claw back enough points that you haven't doubled my point tally anymore, which is good.
Way! I'm still yet to get to that screen. I'm on 2 frames a second. Oh dear. There we go. There we go. Yeah, not bad. 12-7. Podium's 3-1. Arse's about the out-qualification.
No, that's fine. I'm the Esteben. It's okay.
2 of the fastest laps. Not bad on the old pointeroos. I think we rock.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to next season and maybe a better car. Maybe I'll have a better PC by then. But it's been phenomenal. It's been very good fun.
It has indeed.
It's been some ups and downs. What I'd really like to do is, when I have some time, is find a way of getting hold of the footage and making a highlight reel. I think I can. If you don't have the raw footage, I think we can still figure something out.
You can re-download stuff off of YouTube. That's fine.
Yeah, and maybe that'll be my project for the next few weeks.
Ooh.
I'll do a highlight reel with all the emotional highs and lows that have taken place.
Of which there are several. But no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you ever so much to everyone who's tuned in, watched, commented, even sent emails and tweets. It's all been very much appreciated. And I'm sure we'll get to something exciting and maybe do a community race or something at some point.
Yeah, we've been talking about that since Singapore, so we'll have to work that out. But no doubt we will be back at some point in the future.
Definitely. And until then, you lot will take care. And it's bye from Esteben and Bolkenberg. Bye for now.
Toodles.